Well, hello, and welcome back. I'm A.J. O'Neill. This is Beyond Code Live, and what we're going to be doing is going over how to integrate GitHub OAuth with Node.js, and I'm just going to be reading. I did a little bit of pre-reading on the docs, but we're just going to go through this live. I have got the comments open up on the YouTubes and the Twitches, or rather not the comments. What do we call this thing? The top chat. Yeah, that thing. We got that thing open up. And give me just 1 second here so that I can get it so I can see it. No, that's not what I want to do. Go back. Go back. There we go. Okay, now I can actually see the comments because every once in a while it just changes where they are on me. Okay, well, with that out of the way, I think we are ready to go ahead and get started. So I've done different types of OAuth multiple times, and I've even implemented my own systems. It's sad the number of times that I've actually done this. But I think that from what I can see here in the docs, whoa, that's not what we wanted to do. Let's bring that back over here. Just 1 second. Okay, it's going to make me move the screen. Sorry about that, folks. Just wanted to bring that over. It's looking like it's not going to be so bad. Now, this is going to tie into 2 video series that I have. So I'll have 2 links down in the description once this is over. I'll put those in. So this is going to be both for the blog project, which is bliss.js.org, and then it's also going to be for our Auth project. We're going to use the Auth project in the blog project. So with that, the first thing that I think I'm going to do here is go to, and I should have shown you how I got to this actually. Let me see if I can figure it out again. So if I go into an organization, we're going to need to get a client secret. I'm just going to create a dummy one here. So if we go to an organization, let's say view organization, and then we go to settings, and this could be for your personal account too. You go to settings, and then you go down to, I think it's developer settings, and then register an application. I'm pretty sure that's what we want to do. Let's see if there's anything else. OAuth apps, GitHub apps, yeah. So we want to do OAuth app, register an application, and I'm going to call this one, don't use me, this is a test. And I'm going to go ahead and give it the home page. Bliss.js.org and test app do not use. And the reason I'm putting that in there like that is because we are going to basically, I'm going to show you the private key that I create, and I'm going to go through this process. And so I just want anybody that's looking onto this to not try. Okay, so we're going to do beyondcode.duckdns.org. I think I'm going to do beyondcodeapi.duckdns.org /API/webhooks/GitHub, or we could say OAuth2/GitHub. That's pretty good. It's pretty specific. So let's go ahead and register that application. I'm going to take note of this. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to create a new project folder. This is going to go into, well, I guess I'll just go ahead and put it in here. You should be able to check out main at this point. I merged that work in progress branch. I'll have to, I've been doing a little bit of token work here and there on the Auth project without actually doing the video updates. And then, so how do I pronounce Thilarn? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but good day to you. And I'm going back and showing you how to do which steps, how to do the GitHub Sign In stuff. You are welcome. If you're referring to something else, you're welcome for that too. Just kind of curious. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and just make my little self a little to-do here. Oh, I've already got a to-do. I'm going to put those down, and this is going to be about GitHub Sign In. So typically it seems like these things are called whatever sign in. Google Sign In, Microsoft Sign In, LinkedIn Sign In. I think they're all called Sign In. That's kind of what we standard on these days. Anyway, I'm going to click register application, and then we're going to get some secret keys here. So there's my client ID, and we're not going to, you know what? I kind of like this right here, the way that they're going about that. Hold on just a second. I'm going to screenshot this. I'm going to share this with somebody because we were talking about how to do a drag and drop interface where you can also have an upload button. And I think this might be the ticket. Plus, it reminds me that you can assign, you can delegate the click event to a file input event from any button. I remember I once came up with a really convoluted way to do that, and it turns out it's really, really simple. Anyway, so we've got that going on. Okay, client ID. The client ID, it looks like, is going to stay the same. So let's do that. Client ID. This is our callback URL. The. Okay. The. So can I just call you The? Is that cool if we just go by The? I don't want to not say your whole name because sometimes it's like, hey, my name's my name, bro. Say my name. But if you can help me pronounce it so I don't feel stupid saying it, then I'll say the whole name if that's a whole first name. Otherwise, I'll just call you The. Let's see. Then we're going to generate a new client secret. And I got to confirm a password. And then there we go. You cannot delete the only client secret. Generate a new client secret first. Huh, interesting. So this is our client secret, which I'm going to be deleting later. And I'm going to go ahead and go into DuckDNS and see if I can, gosh, I don't even remember which one I'm signed in with here. Let's try Twitter. I think I use Twitter a lot. Is that what I used for this? Oh, I'm going to go have to check this out on the other page real quick. Hold on. I have to go. Oh no, it won't let me log in with Brave, I think. Oh no, it did. I just had to click twice. So that one shows no domain, so I can just log out of here. I'm going to have to try logging in a couple of different times and see which one, or maybe, hold on. I'm going to switch over accounts. What I want to bring up is, well, I guess I could just use, I have to think about this. DuckDNS. So I want to get my domain set up that I'm going to use, and I want it to be a different domain. I think, I'm just going to do reverse proxying. It's going to be fine. I'm going to use, let me change this down here, because I already have the beyondcode.duckdns set up. So I'm just going to do that. Then I don't have to go through and fidget with this. It's not the important thing to focus on here. Okay. So that's the easy part. Now, I wonder what optional features are. No optional features. Advanced. Nothing advanced there. List in marketplace. Yeah, we don't want to list this. Okay. So that, I guess we're pretty much done there. And I'm just going to go ahead and save the link to this in my little notes here, but we can pretty much get rid of that. And we're going to try to get a node app really quick that will respond to that callback URL. So I think I can pull this up. I'm going to SSH into beyondcode.duckdns.org. I'm pretty sure I've already got caddy set up there. Yeah, it looks like I got my caddy file right there. Do I have a reverse proxy in place already? And I've already got a reverse proxy in place. So this is perfect. This will work just fine. And what have I got in serve? All right, sweet. So we're going to go ahead and do, we'll call this GitHub Sign In. And I'm going to remember to get this later. I'm going to go ahead and make sure I got Vim Essentials installed on here. And this is one of the ways that I'm able to be productive in so many places, is that I've got my tool stuff automated. I use Webby. I've got Vim Essentials. I do Webby, Vim Essentials, And boom. Now, I don't know whether this was set up correctly for me to do Vim on it, but it is now. And that's at webinstall.dev if you want to get that for yourself. It takes, as you saw, 3-4 seconds. And I'm going to go ahead and let's just call this, I'm going to call it server.js. We're going to put in use strict. We're going to put in, I guess we could just do this with the built-in, we don't need a framework or anything at this point. So we can just use the built-in. I'm going to make sure we've got Node 16 installed. There it goes. And I'm going to make sure that we have, let's see, npm install-g. Let's make sure we got Prettier and JS Hint installed. And here they come. Okay, so now those are installed. And I guess I just need to do create server. If I remember this correctly, that's how we do it. So var server, and I guess I could just use let here. And apparently I need a JS hint file, .js hint rc. Let's go ahead and say, what is it, ES modules or something like that, ES version. I forget what it is. I'll have to look it up in just a second. But let's say node is true. And just for fairness, let's say browser is true. That's being more than fair, I suppose. And that should be enough to get us started. And maybe have this not complain at me too much. Okay, good. That stops some of the complaining. So we're going to create a server. And we're going to take rec and res. There's no next because we're not using Express or any framework. This is just raw. And then server.listen. And then we'll console.info listening on, oh, I guess we need to give it a port we want to listen to, huh? Let's go ahead and give it a port. Let port equal process.env.port or, whoa, uh-oh. Had a typo there. We're going to do port or 3000. And let's see, we're going to need to require .env and then do .config. I think it's .config or is it .configure? I forget. We'll find out soon. It'll either work or it won't. Then we're going to want this to just res.send hello. So now we're getting the boilerplate out of the way. Listening on server.address. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead. I want to put this in a screen. I probably already have a screen running. No, I don't. Huh, how surprising. All right, we'll do, let me make sure I got watch exec here because we're not ready to install this as a system service. So watch exec -r, what is it, -ejs -r -node app or server.js. Is that what we need? Okay, cool. That looks like it's working. So now I'm going to create a new screen, Control-A-C, npm init. Let's go ahead and get that done. Actually, I'm just going to hit enter for everything. And we need to install --save .env. So let's get that, and let's go ahead and put our env port equals 3000, and we want to go ahead just for program's ability to know that this is a bash style.env file if they don't detect from the file name. We've got the bash magic string up top. Okay, so all the boilerplate is looking good, and this has restarted. I'm going to go ahead and make it, just make any change here. So it'll restart again, Control-A-N to move over. Okay, it's not doing the right port. So I think I might have done this. Oh, I didn't actually tell it what port to listen on. So I think that's what we do there. And then, all right, great. Now we're listening on port 3000, so we're cooking with fire. So if I, at this point, let me open up another screen here. I did Control-A-C. And let me check, do we have any comments? Feel free to ask questions at any time. You know, I'm going to talk fast, but I will be fine to go on tangents and explain things or whatever. So just feel free to let me know. So if we go to Beyond Code, .duckdns.org, we should get the home page. Now if we do /API, we should get node. And something went a little bit awry there. Let's do -v so we can see what we can see. All right, we got to the right place. What happened? Res.send is not a function, duh, because we're not using express. All right, so res.end then. All right, and let's try this one more time, and I expect this time we'll get our hello. For good measure, let's go ahead and just put a /n at the end of that. Also, I suppose I could switch over into fish so that I get a better terminal, and I could be using curly instead of curl so that I have a better curling experience. So we'll just take the same thing I did with curl, but we'll use curly instead. Whoops, no. I guess I'm going to have to retype that because I actually did it in the other shell. So beyond, oh, let me make this a little bit bigger. Whoops. So we can all see better. Beyond code dot duckdns.org /API/hello. And it doesn't matter what I put there. I could put foo, you know, it's all the same. So curly, basically, it's just a wraparound curl that makes curl better. All right. So up to this point, everything's good. I've got a place where I can receive a webhook. I've got a place where I can have some content. That was already existing. I already had the static server is in, whoops, serve www beyond code. So I should be able to do this even. Let's go beyond code duckdns. Let's do GitHub Auth.html. And I'm just going to put here a single link that we're going to go check in the documentation and find out what this link needs to be. But it's pretty much just going to be this. So we can butter this up with JavaScript to make this super dynamic, but for right now we're just going to hard code everything. So let's go ahead and take a look. We're going to need client ID is required. So let's go ahead and say client ID equals, and let's go back to our other bit here where we have our client ID. And I actually have something, I got to remember where I put it. I got something to make it easier to do. Oh, I think I put it in the blog project, or not the blog project, the Auth project. I've got something to read in envs and fill out variables so we have an easier time with precisely this sort of thing. There we go. Okay, this is just going to be a long string. All right, we need to have client ID. We need to have redirect URI. Let's see, good, bad. What's bad about this? Callback. Okay, so it needs to be a subpath of the callback. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and give it our redirect URI is going to be, and then I actually need to encode this, so give me a second here. I'm going to take here, whoops, there's our callback. So let's take this, and then we're going to open up a window here. I'm just going to paste, I'm going to do Encode Uri Component, and I'm just going to paste this in, and I'll put that in a comment or something in the HTML. So let me actually do this. I'm just going to put that in there. That's how we got the redirect URI, was we just encode it. So let's go ahead and take that. Boom, there's our redirect URI. And then what do we need next? All right, we need a scope. I don't know what our scope is supposed to be. App request device user GitHub. Oh, I need to go back to web application flow. This is where we were at. So login. Suggest a specific account to use for signing in. So this is like what hint is for the Google Auth. Scope, we probably want to be, we just care about user at this point. Let's take a look at what the scopes are. what scopes are open to us. Repo, repo status, repo deployment, public repo, repo invite. It seems like we'd want these to be much more fine-grained. Notifications, read, write, access, read user, user email. I think this is pretty much it. I think this is really all we want. Maybe read user. I think that contains email. Read user and user email, I think, are the only things that we really want there. Because we might want to be able to get the user's name so that we can address them, or their username so that we can suggest the same username if it's available. So let's do scope. And then %20, this is one of the ones you just learn by heart. That's what space is. And I think user email is the other one there. So that's now encoded. What else do we need? So we got scope state. This is just random. In this particular case, we're going to pick those 10 random, chosen by fair dice roll. That's going to be our state, and allow sign up. Just to be explicit, let's go ahead and put this as true. There's no reason that that shouldn't be true. And then users are going to be redirected back to your site. So what's going to happen is we're going to get a code. Exchange this code for an access token. All right, so let's see if we can get this right on the first go. I'm going to, if we're going to need to do a post, let me see what we need to do here. Whoops, no. What do we got here? All right, this is where I'm at, back over at the correct screen. I'm going to do, I want to have request, root request. So I'm going to require root request. The API for this is the same as the old request. This is just more secure. Doesn't have a mountain of dependencies. Very fast, lightweight, well-documented API. So all good news there. Oh, and let's go ahead. Oops. Put this up here. The way I like to do it is, in this one, it doesn't make sense to have everything spaced out because we only have one of each, but I like to do it envs, then built-ins, then locals, then third parties. When you get a longer list of dependencies, that's how I like to sort it. You'll see that's a common convention. That's the way that some tooling will automatically sort things. The Go tooling does it that way. All right, so we're going to have the server, and this is going to have, okay, maybe I do want to just throw Express in the mix here real quick. Just because I don't want to have to worry about parsing the query params. So we are gonna go ahead and throw Express, even though it's gonna bring us in a million dependencies. But just for the sake of running through this quickly, and because it's what I'd actually end up having to use anyway. And then of course, if we're gonna use Express, we need @root async router, because Express sucks without having that extra, was it like 50 lines of code to make it work with async and catch errors and all that stuff. Oh, sorry, I wasn't paying attention over here to the comments. I'll try to be a little bit better about that. Why did you need to encode the URI? Is that like a security requirement or best practice? It's required for the browser. So essentially, if you have a URL and you want to put something in the URL that is a special character that the browser might interpret in some other way, or the HTTP server, either the browser or the HTTP server, it could be either one. But if there's any special characters that might be interpreted a particular way, you need to encode them. And I'll give you the easiest example of this. What if I wanted to say foo is equal to, and then just hit up the top row of the keyboard there, right? So a problem, if we wanted foo to be equal to this value, well, we have an ampersand in here. And so it would read up to the ampersand, and then it would say, okay, well, this, assuming that it actually knows what to do with those characters, which it would also encounter it would encounter this one first. And this is also a special character. I mean, these all mean something either to HTTP for the browser or for the server, or not all of them. But this means something. That actually means it's a link to a home location for the web server's sub-account user. I don't know quite how to explain that, but basically it's the Linux user on the system, their home directory. I don't think that exclamation has any special meaning. @ is used for when the parser is looking for the username and password, which probably would be okay here. But actually, I've had cases where the @ will fail, and so on and so forth. The pound is the anchor, which tells the browser to not send anything after this to the server. And then even if it did, the ampersand is a separator, so on and so forth. So I think you get the point. So we encode so that we don't have special characters. And of course, % is the encode character. So that needs to be encoded, because otherwise it would try to interpret this as a character to be encoded, so on and so forth. So I think you get the picture on that. But that's why we had to do the encoding, and I'll show that again in just a second. So here we had, what was it, router. I need to go look at the docs for that super quickly, because I don't hold all this stuff in my head. No one does. There we go. Let's look at async router. I could probably just copy this boilerplate right here. That looks good. Is that it? Yeah, that's probably what we want right there. So let's just copy this little itty bit of boilerplate. And then that, I need to, if you set paste mode in Vim, :set space paste, then it won't auto comment things as it sometimes does. I have to use that a lot. All right, so there's our, oh, I typed it correctly anyway. We are going to need this. I guess I'll just throw this in here. Okay, now it's getting to the point where we actually can separate things out a little bit. And that, the server is going to be use, okay, and then here, whoops, here we go. So that's going to be our server. We're not going to recreate server twice, and we might as well, well, yeah. Hold on, just moving a couple things around. HTTP server, there we go. So, oh, whoops, whoops-a-daisy, what did I do? On listen, oh, we don't need that. And we don't need this. Well, we do need this. That's what we're going to need to exchange for. So what we did so far is we built up what's going to be the authentication page. And I could go there right now, but I'm just, it's going to bring up the dialog. If I click on that link, it's going to bring up the dialog. If I click yes, it's going to redirect back here. So I'm going to see if I can just follow the documentation and get this right on the first try. And the GitHub OAuth is so simple, I think I might be able to. So let's see what we can do here. So we're going to do request. And I'm going to need, again, we're going to have to do, whoops. Okay, I messed something up here. Sorry. What was I putting that there for? Sorry. Server. Okay, where? Create server. Okay, there we go. So app dot, it should be, what is this? Let me find out if this is a post or a get that we're going to be handling here. It's a post. No, I'm going to be doing the post. This is going to be a redirect. Redirect is going to be a get. Okay, cool. So then we're going to do app.get, and we're going to handle, I already forgot what it was, but we'll see it in just a second. So I'll go back to it. And here we only need rec and res. So let's go ahead and put that in there. Okay. So we're going to have client ID is going to be equal to process.env.client ID, and we'll scope this. We'll call it git, whoops, what did I do? GitHub client ID. And then we'll have client secret, same thing. Let me just copy paste that, and then we'll call this secret. And then what we're going to request is going to be method post, and the URL is going to be this one right here. But I'm not sure if, let's see, I think it's just body. No, does it need to be form? I think it's form. www URL encoded form. www URL encoded whatever. That's the type of form that this is going to be, and it's going to need client ID, which will be client ID, and client secret, which will be client secret. And then there's going to be a code, which is going to come from the request, which is why I brought in Express. Quick high-level overview of the Express server. Let me get a little another minute into this, and I'll take and I'll do that. And then I1 help me. I don't know what that means. So if you want to tell me, if you can express yourself a little bit better with what you are looking for, I'd be maybe able to help you, but I1 help me does not help me help you. So, but yeah, if you want to clarify, I'll see what I can do. And yeah, I will get to the overview of the Express server in just a second. Now, while I'm getting up to the point where I'm ready to do that, will you kind of give me a little bit of background? What do you understand about Node and Express? Because if you can kind of help me understand that, I'll just kind of pick it up from that point. But I'm guessing you haven't really done much with Node or Node at all, because I think pretty much the Hello World tutorial in Node is let's set up as an Express server. So, you know, confirm or deny that, and then we'll move forward from there. Alrighty, so at this point, it's just complaining about a semicolon. I can just save to get rid of that. So the code is going to come from rec.query.code. And then once I finish out this function, then I'll do that high-level overview. But I'll check the comments again in just a second. So I'm pretty sure it's exchange this code. Code is going to be code is in a query parameter, and then state will be there as well, but we're not going to use state. For the sake of documentation, I'm just going to put that we get state, rec.query.state. But we're not going to use it. We don't need it for what we're doing. But this is kind of a security parameter. It should be something random so that it doesn't get repeated. And then form. I think we're pretty much there. We got all of these things are in our request. So in theory, our request will work. We're handling the things that come back in the response. This is actually another one that we're not going to use, redirect URI, but for the sake of documenting that it is available to us, I'm just going to put it here in a comment in case I wanted to use that later. And I'm going to take this documentation page that I'm working from. I like to do this. You know, if we've got a function that's heavily based on this thing, let's go ahead and just, you know, put that in there. And I'm going to put a star here to just catch any GET requests that come into the API. And I probably, let me go back to developer application. Nope, not that. That's not what I wanted. Is it back to this one? Where were we at? I might have closed out the window that had that. I do need to go back to developer settings for Beyond Code Bootcamp and make sure that I need to go double check that URL. I guess I have that URL right here, don't I? /API/webhooks/GitHub. That's the redirect URI. I said callback URL, but let's put in parentheses redirect URI. So that's what it's going to be coming back to as a GET request. Now, that's funny that we would have the redirect URI be part of the URL for that. Anyway, I got that copied there. And I'm going to double check the documentation on that because that does not quite make sense. But the thing we're trying to catch is all of this. So let's go ahead and mark it as such. And and we actually don't want that API bit there, do we? I think I fixed that already. I didn't update that in my little notes that I'm keeping down here. but I updated that over in the actual application. Okay, so now let's just give a little bit of space there. And I'm going to get rid of that one. We don't need that anymore. We're almost done with this, and then I'll kind of go and give the overview, if that's all right. Okay, and I see you've got a bunch of you've added some more comments, so I'll look through that in just a minute, because I think I'm almost at the point where I can test this, which is pretty amazing, and I think it'll work. Which that's, I don't know. Let's be real. What works on the first try? But I mean, the documentation they have is really clear and really straightforward and really simple. So it could be. We've got all these parameters set, except login we don't. I guess I should put that in there for documentation and just leave it empty. Users are redirected back to your site by GitHub. Parameters, the URL in your applications where users are sent after authorization. Oh, okay. So I just need to confirm that the redirect URI is the same in both cases. Okay, that makes sense. I get that. So I'm sending that, not they're giving it to me. But they are giving me the code, and I should be getting the state. I think I'm getting the state. What is it? I am given the code and state. Good. And I provide client ID, client ID secret, code, redirect URI. And then my response should be the token. So, I mean, this is going to be phantasmagorical if this all works beautifully, as it seems that it will. Okay. This is pretty sweet. So redirect URI, we should just fill in with the hard-coded redirect URI that we have here. That is that. And I'm just going to double check a couple of things. I know that we do need to put in our GitHub client ID right here into our Env file. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And the purpose of Env Files, for those of you that are not familiar with the Env Files, you should be. There's, for every programming language, there is a package called .env. It's not by the same author. They're all different authors, but that doesn't matter. It does the exact same thing. It reads a file that looks like this. It's a bash. It reads basically a bash variable file. It parses a bash variable file. And the reason you do this is so that you don't have to commit any configuration in with your Git repository. The .env file stays for your local environment, or it goes into the env settings in the thing like GitHub Actions or whatever. So, and then let me just get, whoops, whoa. All right, that looks right. Everything looks right there, client ID. Just double checking, client ID, client secret, code, redirect URI. Okay, this is actually optional, so maybe let's just not put it for now, just so there's one less thing. We should put that for security. We should put that, but let's go ahead, since it is optional, let's not put it. And then with the response, what we should get back, we're just going to console.log resp.toJSON. Well, that actually should be good enough. So let's see, and we'll call this GitHub says. All right, there we are. So we've created the authorization URL just by hand. We've created the thing that's going to respond to it. And we have then created a request that's going to take our client ID and client secret from our environment file, the code that we got from the authorization request being redirected to this location, and then we are going to print out, hopefully we get an access token. So, I mean, fingers crossed, but this, I won't be blown away if it works. I certainly won't be blown away if it doesn't work, but it won't blow my mind if this works when we try it out. npm install, save, express, at root async router, at root request. All those things we should have. And then once we do that, I'm going to test this, and then I'll take that break and look more. Actually, I'll take a break and look at the comments in just a second, maybe even before I test this, just so I can. GitHub says, let's just change that to dots. Okay, server.address is not a function. I know why that is, because that would be HTTP server. Okay. All right, so that's looking good. And then I don't remember what was the name of that file, GitHub Auth. Let's just rename it to github.html for the moment. So if I go to beyondcode.duckdns.org/github.html, or if I want to do a little bit better, whoops, we've got another problem there. I'm going to make a directory called GitHub, and I'm going to move this github.html into the GitHub directory as index.html. And then let's actually give that link, we need to give that link sign in with GitHub, or let's call it GitHub Sign In. And before I do that, I'm going to do one other trick. Which is, I'm going to go to mvp.css. This is a secret weapon. Everybody should know about this, you know, especially if you're back-end dev, but everybody should know about this. You just want something to look decent enough, whatever it is, you just want it to look decent by default. You include mvp.css, and then when you go visit it for the first time without having done in any style, no added classes, boom, it looks okay. It's got a GitHub sign in. There we go. At least it's a nicer blue than usual. So if I click on this and all goes well, it is going to redirect me to the GitHub authorization flow. It's taken a really long time to do that. So while it's taking forever to do that, I'm going to go ahead and oh, what was this? Hold on. What was this? Path name login OAuth access token. Request. Huh, that's weird. That's kind of weird. So I missed something there because I guess maybe I'm all automatically pre-authorized for my own applications. So let's see what I was expecting to be presented with the sign-in dialog. Let me try like two things real quick. One, what I forgot to do was respond. So we should have a dot catch, and I'm just going to put in object, and then let's say res dot send. Res dot end redirecting or getting token dot dot dot, and I'm going to go look over the comments. I'm just going to save this, refresh. Okay, cool. So it says getting token, and we're actually getting an error, and I don't know what that error is yet. Control A escape. Oops, Control A escape. Control A escape. What the heck? Control A escape. No, I don't know why it's not letting me. Control A escape. Let me go into scroll mode. It's not letting me go into scroll mode. All right, whatever. I'm going to take a look at this. Sorry. Let me take a look at comments. I know it's been a while. Yes, sir. From my note understanding that you could run JavaScript on a server where usually JavaScript will run. No. Okay. So JavaScript is a language. So you're right. But JavaScript is a language. It's not you normally run JavaScript in a browser. JavaScript is a language, and you can run it in any JavaScript interpreter. And V8 is the most common JavaScript interpreter, and V8 is what runs in all browsers except for Firefox, including Microsoft Edge, including everything else. Well, no, Nitro is in Safari, and Firefox has Quantum, I think is what they call it. But V8 is the, well, it's more than an interpreter, it's a compiler. It's the most popular V8, JavaScript compiler. And Node uses V8 to run JavaScript. Now, when people talk about browser JavaScript, they're not talking about JavaScript at all. They're talking about this thing called the DOM, or the Document Object Model, which is a C++ binding that allows you to access C++ from JavaScript. So when people say they're writing JavaScript in the browser, most of the time what they're actually saying is they're accessing a C++ library using JavaScript, but it's the browser C++ library. So yes, Express I don't know much about at all, but a buzzword I keep hearing, I guess that it's some sort of program to handle requests like GET POST and to route them proper locations. Exactly, 100%. That is what Express is at the high level. Express is probably one of the worst routers for Node. It was never finished. It's got tons of dependencies, but it is the most popular one, as things tend to go. But it was never finished, and so that module that I referenced, the @root async router, basically adds a little bit of a wrapper around Express to essentially complete it. Because they got like 98% of the way there. And it's funny to be one of the world, probably the most popular routing framework in the world. It never got funding. The developers never got hired by any company that enabled them to do the work they needed to do. And so the project just died. And so it's a really strange and sad story of open source. There's basically one guy who maintains it, but I don't really know what he does because, I mean, I guess he maintains it. If there's like some sort of uber critical security flaw, then he'll, work with somebody to get a fix for it in or something like that. But there's no work being done on it. And Fastify is one that people talk about that's a little bit more modern. It's like Express. I think it's compatible with Express modules, but it's like clean and everything. But everybody learns Express. It's one of those things. It's kind of like PHP. It's like super, super bad, but a bunch of people learned it. What are you going to do, right? And then things get built in it, and then, it's just the way the world is. So with this, let's see, that's the headers. That's kind of weird looking there. I don't know what that's all about. I do want to go back here. I'm going to try doing this open in a private window. That's what happened. Okay, so a little bit contrary to my expectation, GitHub, because I am the owner of the application, GitHub automatically signed me into the application. So here's what we're going to do, because it did not work on the first try. It got pretty darn close, but it didn't work on the first try. We're going to put in a console.log, and we're going to put a rec.query. And we're just going to see what that looks like. And then we're going to put a resp.body at the end here. And actually, we're not even going to do that for the first bit. Okay, so I'm going to go forward here, and it says getting token, and let's see what's actually happening on the console. That's okay. Whoops. Oh no, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay, let's try one more time. I'm going to refresh this, and then what's it going to tell me? Redirect URI mismatch. The redirect URI must match the registered callback for the application. That's kind of interesting from the perspective that it said it was optional in the documentation. So I may have gotten it wrong because the documentation was wrong, because the documentation said that this was optional. But that's okay. It makes sense that it's not optional. But that's not what the documentation said, so that's not what I did. All right, let me go back and then take a look here. All right, redirect URI mismatch. Now it says that it still mismatches. So let me try to understand what's going on here. And actually, let's What are we seeing? Error description, Uri redirect mismatch. So what we need to do is we just need to double check. Oh, you know what it might be? It might not be this error here. It might be a much simpler error. Let me check to see what does our redirect URI look like here. Beyond code API. That's where it was wrong. I had a typo there. Okay, so it wasn't complaining about this one. It's complaining about the other one. So I'm going to go ahead at this point. I think maybe I can just refresh. Well, this has already got that redirect error. So we want to go back. Let me click GitHub Sign In again. Oh, whoops. Except that I'm going to need to refresh so that it actually gets the correct redirect. And I'm looking down at the bottom. That looks right. Okay, cool. Ba-da-da-da. All right, so I was wrong. It did not authorize me by default. So I can click authorize now. All right, and it redirected me, and I've got a code. And then let's see if that code led to a token. We won't know entirely because I'm not logging out all the right stuff. Okay, so I'm going to change this ever so slightly. I'm going to actually have it log out what we need to see. And then, let's see, it's 8:28. Let me refresh this. And we might get an error that that code was already used. Yeah. Incorrect or expired. So we just used that code, so we can't use it again. That makes sense. So let me hit back. Let me refresh this. I probably need to change the state. I won't be surprised at all if it gives me an error saying this state has already been used. Okay, looks like it says it gave me the code again. And then, boom, access token. Wow. So I'm going to say huge kudos to GitHub for putting together documentation that, what's the time? It has been less than an hour. So I was able to implement just based on a single documentation page. This is, well, technically two. Based on 2 documentation pages, I was able to implement in less than an hour their login flow. That is phenomenal. Kudos to you, GitHub. Kudos. Google could not do that to save their lives. Google's got the, oh my gosh. Let me, just for cross-reference here. Okay, I had to go through heaven knows how many different, let's see, how to add Google login with JavaScript. Okay, they have so many different ways to do this. I went on, like 6 different documentation pages. Each one of them had conflicting information. I had to go through this really complicated admin portal. I documented everything that has to be done here. But, and granted, I did a little bit more because I actually did the JavaScript to build the URL for the login. But yeah, I mean, it ended up being a really long journey. That was, probably a week's worth of teasing through to get everything just right. It's certainly not something that you can, well, I mean, to get a demo as simple as what I did here, getting the right information probably took 4 hours. just getting the right information. Here, we were able to, I mean, granted, I got the right information off screen, but all I did was search GitHub OAuth, So this, and it led me to the correct documentation on, and it might actually be a single page. Yeah, it is a single page. So this is the same page, it's just further down the page. All right, so the last thing we need to call this a true success is we need to get the profile URL. So, let's see. How do we get, what is this? This is other stuff. Okay, so this is creating an app, web application flow. That was so simple. Holy moly, that was crazy. Kudos. I mean, really. Just amazing. All right. Okay, so there is one other thing that we need to look up here. So let's say GitHub OAuth profile URL. authorizing, basics of authentication, creating an OAuth app. All right, GitHub OAuth2 profile URL. Come on. Come on, don't let me down now. Don't make this part difficult. Oh gosh. Okay, let's just try GitHub API. Let's go to the GitHub API and let's see if at the GitHub API docs, the REST API right here, if they give us in the overview, user authentication models, okay, references, actions, apps, emojis, gist, interactions. Let's just go to users. Okay, and let's say, can we get profile? User profile. Okay, so /user, and they got an example right here. So let's take this example, and then let's take the access token that's on the screen right there. So give me just a second. Whoa, whoops, no, we want to do that. Let's just, whoops, let me bring this up a little bit. By the way, let me know if you had any more questions about that overview or if that sufficed for you. Okay, so, and we're going to add authorization bearer. Let's see, is it bearer? Do they tell us? Bearer, type equals bearer, token type bearer. Do they show how to use it? So that kind of stinks. They don't actually show how do you use it. Authorization. Oh, they do. Token. OAuth token? Token. Authorization token. So they do not use bearer like everybody else does. They actually use token, which, by the way, is what the spec says. The spec doesn't say bearer. The spec says token. So that's kind of cool that they actually follow the spec. Then nobody else does that. All right. So we copied that token. We're going to paste it in here. And let's see if we get the user profile with the email address. And we do. And just for sanity check, well, yeah. Oh, this is it. This is it. We did it. We did it. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in Node so that we can log it to the screen. But this is it. This is it. Okay. So we're at 59 minutes. If we cut out the little bit of flub in the beginning, we're going to fit this in within the hour, having a working prototype of this. This floats my boat. This is really, 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 really awesome. So let's await that. And then I'm not going to catch that. And then I don't need these, but okay. Okay, so that's going to be URL form encoded, and I want to parse that. So I think I'm just going to use URL as a cheap hack for how to parse this. So this is what GitHub says, and then we're going to take from this, I'm going to use new URL, and I'm just going to use https example.com ? And then I'm going to give it our body. And then we're going to do var URL equals, and then we're going to have url.search_params. I believe it's get. And then we're going to say access token, I believe is what it was called. So there is var token equals, and then we're just going to do this with await request. And I'm just going to put this in here. Sure, we'll go ahead and put an accept header. Why not? So we'll do headers, and we'll just section that off like so. And we're going to want to put another header in here, which is the token. But we're not going to use that token. We're going to use our token. And instead of responding here, getting ready, I'm going to respond down here. Let resp2 or profile, yeah, let's just call it resp2 for now. Resp2 equals this, and we're going to do res.json resp2 .body, and yeah, we're going to set JSON to true here. We're going to set URL is equal to the URL that we want. Okay, header is going to be authorization, and then token, and then plus should be token. All right, so I think that's just about right. We're missing some commas or something. All right, that looks looking good. We need to make this an async function, which since we're using async router, we can. All right, so the server is restarted. I'm going to go back to my example application here. Let's go back. Kind of surprised that it doesn't complain about the state parameter being the same. And then click on. Oh, my heart swells with joy. My heart swells with joy. This is tweetable right here. Except I'm going to tweet it from my personal account, not the whatchamajig account. Okay. Wow. Just wow. So folks, that was it. Okay. That was amazing. You know, you may not have followed that 100%. That's okay. I mean, obviously I was going really fast there. We will, well, let me go ahead and make my, this is, I don't know. I'm going to tweet afterwards. I'm just going to tweet, thank you, team at GitHub, for providing documentation that was exact and an implementation that was exact, that it was cohesive. It actually did what it was supposed to do. This is unheard of in the developer community. Oh man, that was just, I hope you can tell that I am just, boom. You don't get this experience very often. I mean, it probably would have taken longer if somebody had some, you know, documentation set up for an NPM module on GitHub of how to do this. It would probably take longer to figure out that developer's implementation than the GitHub docs. I honestly believe that if I was trying to do this with something else, it would be easier for me to do it by hand like we just did than for me to use just a random developer's document for this particular case, right? But I like doing things by hand anyway. So I'm going to call this one. We're going to do a quick overview of this, and then I'm just going to call it, and we're done. So, oh, and I got to go anyway. But, so what we had is we got a web server. On our web server, we created a file that had a link. We put in that link by hand. So we registered a GitHub application. We created a link using the client ID, not the client secret in the link, the redirect URL that we set up, the scopes, everything was in the one page of documentation. And I'm going to put in analog and equals empty just as documentation for that. I was able to click the button. It did what it was supposed to do, except that I had a typo. Right? And then the server, let me go back to the server. The server, extremely simple, and I'll post this code in a gist, and I'll include it in the video description. I'm going to have to do that afterwards. So remind me, put a comment if I don't have that in there, because I'll come back to this and I'll try to do that. But we created some code where bare bones express server, right? So let's just get rid of the GitHub stuff. Boom, bare bones express server. Nothing fancy. Some environment variables. We've got our environment variables set up for our GitHub client ID and secret. We get a code back to, this is our redirect URL. We get a code back to it as a query param. We take that out of the query param. We follow documentation exactly as it says. We put in the GitHub access token URL. We give it a URL encoded form. We're just using the at root request, which is the lightweight version or lightweight kind of clone of 500 lines of code clone of the original request module, trimming all the fat, all the security flaws. Then we fill out that form, that URL encoded form with client ID, client secret, and code. Should have put the redirect URL there. Well, it could have. It's optional. I'll be done in just a minute. I'm just doing the wrap up. Okay, Then we got that response. That response either had beautifully formatted, exceptional errors in it that said exactly what was wrong, or it gave us back our token. I went ahead and used example.com with a question mark because what came back was URL encoded form. So to parse that, I just did new URL and then create a URL out of it so I could get the search param, so I could get the access token. And then I did request against the user profile from the GitHub API. And that is what we see on the screen right here. And if I wanted to make that ever just a touch a little bit nicer to read, let's go ahead and do this instead. I'm going to do json.stringify null2. There we go. And then I'm just going to show this to you one more time. This is the final result. We click, we're redirected. I say authorize, takes me back around, gives me the profile information. That's it. Gosh, that was amazing. Okay, so as always, if you like what you like, you get more of what you like. So go ahead and like this if it was useful for you. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the fire emoji. This is a great moment. Subscribe if you want more like this. Hit the bell for personalized recommendations. You'll get the code stuff, and then potentially I do a couple other things every once in a while, game stuff, electronics. You'll get that if it's interesting to you. I will put down in the doobly-doo the link to this gist. I got to do some other stuff right now, but when I come back to this later tonight, that's the first thing on my priority list. I'm going to leave this up here on the screen so I remember to do that. And you have an amazing night. Thanks so much for coming along with me for the journey, asking questions. Really appreciate it. Oh gosh, I already forgot. Is it Thee? Is that what we're saying we're going to call you? And then a couple other people that joined in too. Thank you. Yeah. But well, wait. Is that Thee or Thee? I think it would be Thee, right? Because TH versus DH, well, phonetic, whatever. Anyway, all that. Thanks for joining in. Y'all have a wonderful day, night, whatever. Adios. Wait, it's the? It's actually the, like it would be phonetically, that would be the. Man, you're going to have to do a YouTube video and say it. Okay, but see, there's a 15-second delay between when I'm speaking and when I see you type, so I don't actually know which one we're referring to. But we'll get it figured out. Anyway, I've got to go. Adios.